In today's episode, we are creating beautiful home decor using paint stir sticks that you can find at your local home improvement store. I hope you enjoy. For this project, I'll be using a 5-gallon paint stir stick. It measures about 21 inches long. I'll be using Waverly's Antique Wax to give this a nice stained look by applying this with a brush and then going over it with a dry paper towel to blend it in. I'll make sure to get all of the sides, including the ends, and allow sufficient enough time for that to dry. Using some pipe cleaners, I'm going to take a handful of these and individually wrap them around the paint stick and twist them very tightly. I'm going to leave some of the openings on the sides of the paint stick as well as some in the center. I'm going to do this all along the paint stick. I want to be able to attach my greenery on the sides and not just the center. I may need to add a few more later on, but this is what I'm going to start off with. I have 2 eucalyptus vines that I've had for a while. I'm going to attach these to the paint stick using the pipe cleaners, leaving a little bit hanging off of each end. I'm also going to make sure that I twist the leaves around to face frontwards. Once I have the first vine secured in place, I'm going to add the second vine going in the opposite direction. Again, making sure that I leave a little bit hanging off of the ends. I have some lamb's ear that you can find at Walmart that come in a bundle of 2. I'm going to lay that flush to the end of the paint stick and secure it in place. Then take the second one and overlap the first one, securing it in place with the pipe cleaners. I will repeat that process on the opposite end of the paint stick. I decided to take an additional bundle and place one on top of the previous 2 on each end to make sure that it was nice and full, and again I secured those in place. I'm using some white baby's breath that came from Dollar General for $1. I'm going to cut the stems from the bundle and add 1 stem to each end so the flowers will cascade over the end, and also secure those in place. I'll make sure to cut the excess ends of all of the pipe cleaners off and then twist them down and press them into the greenery. Fluff the leaves up to make sure that all of the pipe cleaners are hidden. You will see the pipe cleaners in the center, but I'll be adding a bow to that. I'm using some 2.5-inch wired burlap ribbon. Holding it up to the center of the swag, I want to see how big I want to make my loops. Once I cut the first piece, I'll cut 6 of those at the same length. I'll also cut 1 long length to be able to make 2 tails for the bow. Pinching that long length together in the center, I can add this by taking an additional pipe cleaner and adding it to the paint stick. To hold the loops together, I'll be using 2 zip ties. You just want to fold your ribbon over in half, pinch it together at the bottom, and continue to do that for all 6 pieces of the ribbon until you have 6 loops. Then you can take your zip tie and wrap it around at the bottom where all of the pieces are pinched together. Before you tighten your zip tie completely, add your second zip tie through the first one so that you'll be able to use the second zip tie to attach to the swag. Set the bow in the center and using that second zip tie, wrap it around the paint stick and secure it tightly in the back. Make sure to cut off the excess zip ties. I decided to dovetail each end of the tails of the bow. You can hang this up by adding an additional pipe cleaner or a twine hanger to the back. For this project, I'm using a wood panel. I've had this one for a while, but you can find them at Dollar General. This one measures almost 8 inches square. Using some Waverly Antique Wax, I'm going to give this a nice stained look by applying it with a brush and then blending it in with a dry paper towel. I'll do this on the entire piece, including the back. I did paint the inside panel, however, it's not really necessary. At the time, I wasn't really sure if you would be able to see through the pieces that I'm going to be applying to the inside of the panel. Once I've covered this entire piece, I will allow sufficient enough time for it to dry. I will be using some quart paint sticks that come in a pack of 30, and you can find these at Lowe's, as well as my handheld miter shears, which are adjustable and you can cut at a 45-degree angle. If you don't have these, you can also use some heavy-duty scissors. Using a ruler, I'm going to find the center of the bottom and top of this wood panel and make a mark with a pencil. I've already set my miter shears at a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to cut the rounded portion off of one of these paint sticks. Setting that angle in the top left corner and then lining up my ruler, I can then make a mark so I'll know exactly where to cut it using the handheld miter shears. I'll adjust the 45-degree angle to go in the opposite direction, so it should look something like this. Using that piece as a guide, I can cut a second one exactly like that to place in the opposite corner, both meeting in the middle of the panel. Using that one as a guide, I can cut the third and fourth piece the exact same size to place underneath the previous two pieces. I'll go ahead and cut the angle on one end of another paint stick, line that up, and make a mark where I need to cut the angle so I can make these two cuts. You can continue to do this method until you have all of your pieces cut, and you'll have 3 small triangle openings. Using some of the leftover pieces, I just cut some tiny triangles to fill in those areas. Once I liked the way it looked, I just used my Cricut weeding tool to pull a couple of these pieces out so that I'll be able to glue them down. I'm using hot glue, but you could certainly use some wood glue or a more permanent adhesive. I'm going to start off by gluing these pieces down so that I can use those as a guide to make sure everything stays lined up and straight, and then I can pull each of those individual pieces up and glue them down. I'll make sure to remove any of the glue strands. The next step is not necessary. You can actually leave it just like this, but I decided I wanted to take some spackling that I already have on hand. It's pretty old and it's almost dried up. I want to use this to fill in between the cracks and also give it a bit of a whitewash look. Once I remove all of the excess, I could take a wet paper towel and go over the piece to blend in the spackling and remove it from any areas that I don't want it to be. You could use this as a piece of art, or you could even add a wooden initial stained in the same color as the wood panel to the center to make it a little bit more personalized. Today's video is part of a collaboration with Lisa Marie at Crafting My Best Life with Lisa. Each month she hosts a Craft Your Stash collaboration, and this month I have the honor of being her co-host. I will have a link to Lisa Marie's channel as well as the playlist in my description box below. When you are finished watching my video, I hope that you will go over and check out all of the beautiful creations that everyone has made in today's playlist. You can get a pack of 10 12-inch ruler sticks at Lowe's. I have 7 of them left and I'll be using them for this project. Using 2 of them, I'm going to cut these at 7 inches using my handheld miter shears. I'll go over each end with some sandpaper to smooth that out. I'm going to paint 5 of the full-length paint stir sticks, as well as those 2 7-inch pieces with a white chalk paint, or you could use an acrylic paint. I'll do this on all sides and allow time for them to dry. I'll be using a square to make sure that I can keep everything lined up straight. Placing the 7-inch piece at the bottom so I'll know where the right paint stick needs to be lined up with. Then I can evenly space the 3 remaining paint sticks. Adding some glue at the bottom, I can attach the 7-inch piece on top of the 5 paint sticks. I can carefully turn this around just so I can see exactly where I need to place the glue to add the second 7-inch paint stick. Then I could flip this over to the back side, and using some twine, I could create a hanger with hot glue, placing the twine and then reinforcing that with a piece of ribbon. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Then I can flip this over, and on the front side I want to add this cute flower market sign. But first I need to remove the hanger from the back. Then I can hot glue this to each of the paint sticks right in the center. For some extra cuteness, I'm going to use some of these paper flowers that I previously purchased at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to glue 3 different colors for this cute hanging picket fence sign. For this project, I'm using some garden stakes that you can find at Dollar General. They're 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to measure and cut 4 at 7 inches, and then measure and cut 4 at 9.5 inches. I'm going to start off by placing one of the 9.5 inch pieces in between 2 of the 7-inch pieces, flush at the bottom, like this. I'm going to make 2 sets of these, applying some wood glue to the ends of the 9.5 inch pieces, and then making sure that they are lined up evenly at the bottom, and allow a few minutes for that to get tacky. Using the 5-gallon paint stir sticks, I'm going by the ruler on the back side, and I'm going to cut 8 of these at 11 inches. Since my glue didn't want to come out of the bottle, I'm going to use an old paintbrush to add the wood glue to the garden stakes so that I'll be able to add the 11-inch paint stick flush on the sides and bottom of each one of these sets. To reinforce it, I'm going to use my staple gun with a 1/2 inch staple, stapling the paint stick to the garden stakes. So they should be looking something like this. I'm going to repeat that process on the opposite side, adding the wood glue, the paint stick, and reinforcing it with the staples. This will be our top piece, and the one with the garden stake will be our bottom piece. Now I can take the 4 remaining paint sticks and evenly space them between the top and bottom one on each set, reinforcing them with the staples, so once finished the 2 sets will look like this. Taking the 2 sets, make sure that the garden stakes are on the bottom and they're facing each other. Take the other 2 9.5 inch garden stakes and place them at the bottom on each side. Using the 5-gallon paint stir stick, I could take a measurement from the outside edge to the outside edge. Mine was 11.5 inches. I'm going to cut 8 pieces at 11.5 inches. I'm going to add wood glue to both ends of the garden stake and set the 2 side pieces up flush to the ends. Then I could take one of the 11.5 inch paint stir sticks, add glue all along the bottom and the 2 edges, and place that flush to the bottom side, along the garden stake. I'll do the same thing on the opposite side and allow a few minutes for that to get tacky. Very carefully pick it up so that you'll be able to add the staples on each end to reinforce it, and do that on both sides. Now, because that bottom garden stake needs to have some staples in it with the painter stick going across, I cut a garden stake that fit tightly so that I will be able to set this up and it will support it as I add a staple to each piece. It's going to keep that bottom garden stake from moving around. I'm going to add staples all along the bottom on both sides. Making sure that everything is straight, I'm going to take those 11.5-inch paint stir sticks, and starting at the very top, I'm going to attach it just like the other ones with the wood glue and the staples. Then I can flip it around and add that top piece on that side. This is going to make it so much more sturdy, and then I can go back and add in the 2 remaining paint sticks on those 2 sides using the glue and staples. You could add some paint sticks on the inside on the bottom to make a bottom. However, I want to use mine as a planter's box, so I'm going to leave mine open. Because it's wood, you could stain it. I chose to spray paint mine, which I found was really easy to do, and I already had some matte white spray paint on hand, so I'm going to apply 2 thin coats on this entire piece, inside and out, allowing it to dry in between coats, and this is how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, let me know in the comment section down below, because I always love to know which one is your favorite. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to click that subscribe button right below the video. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.